Hey everybody, I'm Zee Garcia, and today I'm taking a look at this dice rolling game called Lucidity. In this dice game, players have the ability to enter a dream world, and you're going to be rolling dice to simulate you traversing that dream world while you have to avoid nightmares. And in fact, you might turn from just being a dreamer in this world to being a nightmare yourself. Let me show you how the game works. We'll come on back after that, and I'll tell you what I think of it. To set up the game, we are going to put all 80 of these dice in the bag, and you are going to give every player one of the sheets here, one of these markers, as well as a guide to that lays out the turn and what they'll be doing while they are a dreamer, or if they become a nightmare, they will have different actions that they must perform. All right, and so on your turn, let's say it's my turn first. I would first of all pick on the sleep track here, how much I want to push my luck, basically. And I can choose to start at 3 dice, 4 dice, or 5 dice. So I'm going to go for the middle one here, 4. I would reach in the bag and I would pull out 4 dice. And from those 4 dice, then I can throw 2 of them back in. And each one has a different configuration of faces. So for example, the red ones are a little bit more dangerous, but more rewarding. So I'm going to go ahead and return those 2. I'll keep those 2 and return the other 2 to the bag. And so you always return 2. So that 3 really means 1 that you'll be actually rolling. So I take these 2 dice and I roll them, and I do whatever they say in whatever order I want to. So this one gives me a victory point. This one starts to exhaust me. Once that's done, I have to check if I have any tracks that are filled. So any of these tracks, nightmare tracks over here, shadows, the exhaust, or the hunt track. And if I want to, and those are not filled, then I could push my luck and move this up. I cannot change tracks at that point. I have to stick with the track I'm on. So at this point, it's 6 dice. I again reach in the bag. I pull out 6 dice, and I return any 2 I want to. So I'm going to go ahead and return those 2, and I'll roll these. And again, I do whatever they say. That one gives me a victory point. This one puts me to sleep a little bit more, exhausts me. And then these are specific powers that trigger when I play them over here on the matching symbol. So I'm going to go ahead and place the depth there. That's the blue one. And that one says I draw and roll 1 additional dream die. So I'll go ahead and grab this, roll it, goes up here. And then this one goes here in the yellow track. And that one says I rotate 1 sleeping die to the eyeball symbol there. And I leave it where it is. I don't change it, all right? Now, I again check the tracks, and this one is filled. So I'm exhausted. When I'm exhausted, what happens is I have to reach in the bag, and I draw any 1 random die. And if it's whatever color that die is, I lose every die of that color in my scoring track. It's red, that's good. If it had been yellow, I would have been down to 0 again. Chuck that back in the bag. And now that I'm done, I get to rest. And when I rest, I either remove 1 die that shows the shadow symbol here, or all the dice that show my exhaust symbol there. And so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and return these dice, the exhausted dice, to the bag, because I wouldn't be able to roll next time. I would be exhausted, and it is the next player's turn to pick a track and roll some dice, possibly stop and rest, or push their luck. All right? And that's basically it. So that's always what you do. At the end of the round, you rest, remove 1 of these, or all of the ones that show the sleeping symbol there, and that continues. And again, you're always checking if these tracks are filled after you complete 1 of those rolls. So what do the tracks mean? What do they do? Well, this one up here, the hunt track, if that's ever filled, you lose the game, you're eliminated. If this one is filled, as you saw already, you might lose some victory points, possibly all your victory points, and then you're done for that round. And if any one of these is filled up to the 3rd one, or the 4th with only 2 players, then you become a nightmare, all right? When you become a nightmare, you are going to clear off all of the other dice except for your victory points, and you are going to take a slightly different turn. That turn goes as follows. At the beginning, you either get to consume power or you get to send a minion. If anyone else has a die down here of your color. And what I mean by that is when you become a nightmare, you are going to see which color it is that you have the most of down here, probably the one that turned you into a nightmare, and you get the matching card for that nightmare, okay? And so, for example, let's say I filled up on green, that's the one that did it, or, blue, then I'm going to get this, all right? I'm going to get the Nightmare of the Depths there. I would put that over here and cover that up because I won't be needing that section anymore. And then at the beginning of my turn, if someone has a blue die in their scoring area, I take it, put it in my own, or I send out minions, which means grab the bag, grab 2 dice, take a look at those 2 dice, and I can give them one and have them roll it. Have whoever I picked roll that die. There's also a little ability that your nightmare is going to have that's going to allow you to steal dice, have someone else roll something and then steal it from them, that sort of thing, all right? And that's it. The game's going to be over when someone gets to 15 of these victory points. Whoever's got the most power then is the winner, which is, again, the track down here. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So that is how you play the game. All right, so let's break this down a little bit. I'm going to use my talking points here, my target audience system to help me break this down. So we're going to start off with thematic ties. I like the theme in this game. This idea of you being in a dream world, finding your way around, avoiding bad things happening to you. That's a cool theme, and I like that. I think it's maybe not necessarily well implemented in this game. It's quite an abstracted concept, but most games are, and I do like that they're doing something here that is not an usual theme, okay? So I like that. The aesthetics, I think, are great. I really, really like the look of this game. Yes, it's dark. Yes, it's sort of macabre, but I think it's well done. It's pleasing to me. This is definitely my one talking point that's always the most subjective, and I know that. But for me, this works. I love the look of the game. Replayability, and from here on out is when we start running into a few problems with this game. The replayability I find to be pretty low because the game does feel to be largely on rails, and so when you take that trip again, things might be different because the die faces will come up differently, but you have very little say over what happens. So I find the replayability to not be as high as if you had some dice mitigation, and I suspect that's not the last time I'm going to say the words dice mitigation in this review. Game length is fine. It says on the box 20 to 30 minutes. That's fine unless you get eliminated early in the game. If you take those red dice, if you keep those red dice and you have a bad roll, or if you pull out only red dice, it could happen. It's possible for you to be sitting out a good chunk of this game, not doing anything. That's kind of lame in this day and age, but the game length is not, the game I don't think is too long for what it is, Ease of play. How easy is it to internalize everything to play it? For the most part, pretty easy. It's one of those games where they have to name everything a funny name. I mean, even on the inside of the lid here, they have an FAQ for this game, which is just a simple little dice game. So they have here like things you might forget. What is a dream that says the dice. They're called dreams. And things like that, So a little bit more, not clunky maybe, but there's a little more injection of theme here that really doesn't translate than was probably necessary. And then the symbology of everything, kind of figuring that out. The game, again, I don't want to come across like, oh, it's so difficult to teach. It's really a massive hindrance. It's not. It's just when you compare this dice game with what it does, the abilities it allows you to take part in, to other dice games that are simpler, that you can bring out and teach to just about anybody, then yes, it suffers a little bit in that comparison. And then lastly, tactics and strategy and luck and things like that. This game definitely, I think, is, as I said before, very much on rails. I don't think you have a lot of tactics. I don't think you have a lot of things you can manipulate. The dice mitigation just isn't there. The only choice you really have, just about all of the time, is that when you pull out a few dice, you can return 2. And that's going to allow you to, for example, pull out dice, realize that some of them are blue, so-and-so is a blue nightmare already, I'm going to throw those back in so that they don't come up victory points and they steal them from me. Okay, and then you can decide if you want to keep the red ones. You know, like I said, all the dice have sort of different faces. You know, I think the yellow ones put you to sleep more quickly, and you can kind of keep what you think is going to be helpful. But then you roll them, and you get what you get. The other thing I have a problem with here is becoming a nightmare in this game is really pretty boring. You are doing way less when you are a nightmare. It's kind of like being eliminated. It's like a soft elimination, you know. Yes, you're in the game. Yes, you could win. But you do so very little on your turn. You either steal a die or you give someone else a die to roll. You don't even get to roll them yourself. So from that point on, you are done doing any of that fun stuff. Pulling, see what you got, chucking the dice, right? I mean, like that's why we play dice games, right? To chuck dice. So while this game is very gorgeously produced, I think from that point of view, and from how stark it looks, how engaging the theme is, I think all of those things are great. The gameplay itself is very much a roll the dice and see what happens and, you know, trigger your little abilities that you have to do anyway. There's not a lot of dice mitigation. You cannot manipulate the way in which you play the game. You are just sort of along for the ride, and hopefully you're in it and not eliminated. And hopefully, if you do become a nightmare, it isn't for a long time because you're going to be largely sitting there stealing a point every now and then, or, you know, giving other people dice. So that's basically it. I can't really recommend it. I think there's too many good dice games out there that do allow you to do some fun stuff in the game. And while they have luck, because they are dice games, you will feel clever by manipulating that luck, by using that luck to work for you. That's where dice games really ultimately succeed the most. This one, unfortunately, doesn't really do that. So that's it for me. Thanks for tuning in to this review of Lucidity, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.